for you all. We've got a storm system moving in that's going to bring us some bigger impacts into this weekend. So we'll go through all the details of this storm system as we go throughout this update. You can give me about 30 seconds to a minute. I'll make sure everything's working here behind the scenes, and then we will get started in this in full. And I'll try not to take up too much of your Friday evening, even though there is going to be a fair bit to talk about. So I'll be back here in just a second. In the meantime, I will show you those current conditions across western Montana. For the most part, all is quiet right now. We have seen clouds increasing across the region ahead of this storm system rolling in, and we're going to likely see more of that as we head into the overnight hours. Working on the one side, and there is the other one. All right, I've got what looks like everything working here behind the scenes like I was hoping it might. So I think with that, let me spin this back around and we will get started. So I know we'll have more people tuning in as we go throughout this update, but feel free to share this YouTube live update. Also, if you have any questions or comments as we go throughout it, feel free to ask those in the chat section. I'll try and keep an eye on those as we go throughout. So for the last couple of days, we've seen really nice conditions. High pressure has been in control. We've seen temperatures anywhere from 5 to 15 degrees above average into the 50s and 60s. And that's where we were once again today, though we have seen that increase in cloud cover. Now that we're starting to get beyond sunset, temperatures are falling back into the 40s and 50s right now. 47 Kalispell, 46 Missoula, 52 in Butte, and 55 in Butte, and 52 in Bozeman. We're going to continue to see these falling throughout the night. Most areas will be in the 30s for those overnight lows. Now, the main feature you can see on this satellite and water vapor loop is this large trough of low pressure. It's really like a ski jump coming into the Pacific Northwest, and it's moving into our region. This is what's helped to bring us the increased cloud cover today. But you notice the spin back in here, really this is just going to be a driver for active weather for at least the next couple of days and maybe even into early next week as well. You've probably heard the term getting thrown around on this, an atmospheric river. And really for the Pacific Northwest, that is exactly what this was. There was a lot of moisture that's associated with the storm system. We are still getting parts of that, but it isn't quite as strong as what it was back over into parts of Oregon and Washington. That said, we're still going to get plenty of moisture out of this. So be prepared, especially for areas along and west of the divide, for a bit of a soggy weekend as it looks like right now. But a little bit of good news, and I'll just kind of hint to this. It likely won't be raining the entire weekend. There will be gaps in some of this rainfall. So I want to do one thing really quick to give you a sense. Pretty much all is quiet across our region. But as we take a little look out, we can see all of that moisture back into, again, Washington, Oregon. A lot of heavy rainfall in the lower elevations, and some heavy mountain snow has been ongoing through the day. And this is what's on its way to western Montana. We're going to see our first bits of moisture from this activity here in parts of eastern Oregon. It's going to slide across and move into northwest and west central Montana overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning. But this activity that's closer to the I-5 corridor from Seattle back down through Portland, places like Salem and Eugene, Oregon, that's going to be associated more with that Pacific cold front that's going to bring us a lot more moisture and that drop in our temperatures as we head into tomorrow afternoon and evening. So here are the three big things to take away for this weekend and early next week. We're going to start off with increasing winds. That's going to really continue from where we are now. Southwest Montana will be the focus of this, but area-wide we could be talking gusts in that 20 to 40 mile per hour range on Saturday. In parts of southwest Montana, that may be more in that 40 to 60 mile per hour range, especially in places like Bozeman, Dillon, Ennis, West Yellowstone. So some very strong winds are expected. As for the snow, that's going to begin at around 6,000 feet. It will be dropping to areas around 4,500 to 5,000 feet as we get into Saturday evening and Sunday morning. This is when we could be talking moderate to occasionally heavy snowfall and pass travel impacts. So mountain passes, that's probably going to be the primary focus for impact from this storm system. Again, especially those along and west of the divide. And then as we get into Sunday evening and Monday, maybe even continuing into Tuesday in some isolated locations, a bit more of a wintry mix. So we're going to primarily be rain in our valleys, though we could see that transition over to snow for, again, Sunday night, early next week, as the system brings more cold air, or at least a second wave of moisture brings some colder air. So let's start off with the winds. Like I was mentioning, 20 to 30 mile per hour gusts area-wide will be possible. It's as we get into areas along and south of Interstate 90, we could see those increase even further, and you see some of these 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts. Dillon, West Yellowstone, even Bozeman has been seeing that, has been indicated to potentially see that tomorrow afternoon. So be aware of that into the afternoon hours. Secure, even now, probably a good idea, secure some of your loose items on your patios, or if you've got a garbage can out, something like that. Make sure it's tied down, it's protected, and not going to go and visit your neighbors a little bit further down the street. But that's going to be really, I think Saturday is going to be the windiest of days across the region. We could still see some breezy conditions, though, as we get into Sunday as well. Now, with the winds, we do have high wind watches that are going to be in effect from Saturday morning through Saturday evening. Again, places like Dillon, Lima, West Yellowstone, Big Sky, Bozeman, Ennis, up to areas near Three Forks, Cardwell, Whitehall, where we could see some of those strongest wind gusts, especially in those north to south valleys. So looking at the Madison River Valley, the Beaverhead Valley, where we could see the worst of those for tomorrow afternoon. But even outside of that, it's still pretty breezy on Saturday afternoon. So let's get into the precipitation side of things. This is where we're going to see the greatest impact, and I think spend the most time is just kind of timing this out and letting you know what kind of moisture we're seeing. So right now, all is quiet, all is calm. We're starting to see that cloud cover filter in. Maybe even as early as, say, 10 to midnight, we start seeing our first showers right along the state line, maybe places like Troy over towards Libby, Lookout Pass, Knox and Heron. A few sprinkles, light showers can't be ruled out. This will increase in coverage as we head into Saturday morning, but one thing to notice, and this is the newest model run, there is a bit of downsloping going on. So you see places like Kalispell, Missoula, all that moisture is being indicated up in the higher elevations. It gets to the Flathead, Mission, and Missoula valleys, as well as into the Bitterroot Valley, and it just starts to evaporate. So that may limit how much moisture we see down into our valley locations along US 93 this evening and overnight. But higher elevations certainly do look like we're going to start picking up rainfall. I think for the most part, this should be rain up over, with snow levels over 6,000 feet. That'll become a little more isolated into Saturday morning. And here's where I was talking about, it may not be a completely washed out type of weekend. Looks like it's going to be more isolated in nature into Saturday morning, but midday is when we're going to start seeing a bit more of that moisture roll through. And here comes the main event, or at least the main event for Saturday in this activity back over here into Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. And that's going to be associated with that cold front. As that moves through into the later afternoon and evening, we're going to see scattered to widespread shower activity. This is why those rain chances are anywhere from about 60 to 90%. For Saturday, for areas west of the divide, it's because of the afternoon activity, not so much an all-day event. But most of the area will pick up some moisture into Saturday evening. This is when those snow levels will begin to fall from around 6,000 feet down to 4,000 to 4,500 feet as this cold front pushes through and we see a bit more cold air moving in. For most of our valleys, this should stay as rain through Saturday evening. Higher elevations, mountain passes, this is where we are going to start talking about the potential for some issues for travel. So we'll see that continue to march its way across the region, getting into Butte, the I-15 corridor, somewhere where I would say giving it a little bit of leeway on timing, probably anywhere from about 8 to midnight, as it looks like right now for Interstate 15, places down towards Butte and Dillon. Kalispell, Missoula, we're probably talking in that 6 to 10 o'clock period, and then out towards Bozeman, Big Sky, West Yellowstone, we're probably talking more in that 10 to 2 a.m. time frame as that moves through. Once it does, temperatures will start to fall. So for tomorrow, Bozeman, we're likely in the 60s. Kalispell, Missoula, Butte, we're likely in the 50s for tomorrow. But notice how on the backside of that main wave of moisture, there still is going to be activity, maybe a little bit more dispersed, a little more isolated in nature, but you're seeing more of the blues and pinks showing up. Granted, that's one aspect of the fact that it is after midnight at this point in the model, but also that colder air starting to move in, where we are going to see that potential for accumulating snowfall into our mountain areas. But we also will see more of that start to develop into the later afternoon of Sunday. So just kind of going backtracking here, wave one tonight into Saturday morning comes pretty isolated. Wave two moves in for the late afternoon and evening hours and continues in a lighter sense into the morning of Sunday. We may get a bit of a break into Sunday, say 6 to noon, and maybe even some clearing. A little bit of sunshine can't be ruled out. But then we have to be prepared for the next wave that moves in late Sunday evening and into Monday. And this is the one that could bring us our greatest impact when it comes to travel for more of our areas west of the Divide and then down into southwestern Montana. The cold air is already going to be in place. Snow levels at this point will begin to fall from around 4,000 feet down to valley floors or near valley floors Sunday night and into Monday. So I think for the US 93 corridor, with this main wave moving in Sunday night, this should primarily still stay as rain, but snow levels again will be falling. That's going to likely be the case over towards Bozeman as well. So this is essentially like a secondary cold front that moves through. Mountains, mountain passes, we will be looking at least the chance for some accumulating snow during this time period. So as we get into Monday morning early, you see more of those blues towards Bozeman, some of these back here towards Butte, Missoula, Kalispell. This is where we're going to see that rain-snow mix. We could even see it completely transition over to snow for the morning commute on Monday. Still some question marks about how much cold air gets down to the valley floors. But just be aware, Monday morning for that commute, biggest impacts will be over the passes, but we can't rule out some slick roads. Even if it is raining, there could be a little bit of a freeze, especially on overpasses, bridges, where those tend to freeze up first, just due to the wind flow going underneath the overpasses can allow them to cool down a little bit faster. But in general, not expecting a high level of impact for our valleys into Monday morning, but there is the chance for at least some minor slick spots here and there. Again, like I said, biggest issues will be up over our passes, and I'll specify which ones I've got my closest attention on here in just a minute. As we get into Monday afternoon, we're still going to be looking at spotty showers. We'll likely see another wave of moisture moving in sometime between Monday night and Wednesday. Still some question marks on that, but in general, active weather isn't going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Now, because of the expected snow that we're seeing up in our mountains, we've got winter weather advisories that are going to be going into effect for Sunday morning. This is where things get a little bit complicated, and I want to make sure I give the correct information here because we've got multiple winter weather advisories that are actually overlapping in the same areas. So let me get all of these pulled up here really quick. So for one example, the West Glacier region, as well as the lower Clark Fork region, the Clearwater Mountains, the Bitterroot and Sapphire Mountains, those both have, oops, let me get this spun around. All of those locations have two separate winter weather advisories. So the first one of those begins at let me get this right information, at 3 a.m. Sunday morning, continuing through 11 a.m. Sunday morning. So it's a relatively short window for that first one. For that, most areas over 4,500 feet, we're talking about 1 to 3 inches of accumulation. So first winter weather advisory in those areas above 4,500 feet. For the second ones, those are for all of those areas, including, so this will be for the afternoon activity, Kootenai Cabinet region, Lower Clark Fork region, West Glacier region, Potomac Sealy Lake region, Butte Blackfoot region, Clearwater Mountains, and the Bitterroot and Sapphire Mountains. So all of those areas will be included for the 6 p.m. Sunday night or Sunday evening through noon on Monday winter weather advisories. And for those, we could see an additional 1 to maybe 4 inches of accumulation in those areas. One note for this, most of these, this will bring those snow levels down just a little bit, so probably about 3,000 to 3,500 feet for the second winter weather advisory as compared to 4,500 feet for the first one. So like I said, it's a little bit complicated. If you want to know specific details for your region or your community, best place to go to where it's all broken down a little bit better is on our homepage, nbcmontana.com. You can go to the weather tab, and it has all of that broken down by region. So I'll say this in the shows today. I've just been trying to say in general, from Saturday evening, late Saturday evening through Monday morning, that's the window for these winter weather advisories. It's not exact, but gets the general sense of that's when we could see the worst of the snowfall and the greatest, at least, level of travel impacts over those mountain passes. So just again, here's a little look ahead at what those areas are. Along and west of the Butte, or west of the Divide will be the focus of that. I was looking at Butte and I said along and west of Butte. But along and west of the Divide is where we will see those greatest impacts into Saturday night through Monday midday time frame. Now continuing on, we see those snowfall totals start to pile up. I'm going to pause this right in here. And this is looking into Monday morning, or at least through Monday morning. The focus for accumulating snowfall right now does look to be Marias, Lookout, Lolo, and Lost Trail passes. So those along the state line and up into northwest Montana, where we could pick up anywhere from about 2 to 6 inches on average. Lost Trail, you're going to be right on the edge of this, so you may be more in that 1 to 3 inch range. But these are the 4 specifically that I think have the highest likelihood for travel impacts. Rogers, McDonald, Homestake, Bozeman, maybe a little bit less in the way of moisture getting over there as the moisture flow starts to break down and gets absorbed by a lot of these mountains further off to the west. We could see a bit more enhancement down here, though, towards Monida Pass, Reynolds, Targhee passes as well. Some slightly higher snowfall totals in that area, and that may even include places like West Yellowstone over to Big Sky, the Beartooth and Absaroka Mountains, where we see some higher totals, maybe more into that 3 to 8 inch range, just depending on how things go along. But for pass level, I think the 2 to 6 inches on average is going to be pretty common. I wanted to pull one more graphic up that I didn't pull before, so give me just a minute. Been talking a lot about the mountain snow, but in general, we're still going to be looking at some very beneficial moisture for the region, and looking at the rainfall totals. Granted, up in the mountains, this is going to be mixed in with the snow, so maybe not quite the clearest there. But in general, it does look like we could pick up upwards to about 1/4 of an inch of rainfall out of this for areas of western Montana. Some isolated totals, especially if you get under some of those heavier showers, maybe 1/4 to 1/2 inch of rain, like it's being indicated in Missoula and Bozeman. I think it's a little more likely to see totals closer to maybe 1/4 to 1/2 inch for places like Kalispell, Polson, Missoula, down into Hamilton. But that downsloping flow, the evaporation of the moisture, that could limit those. So I think in general, again, upwards to about 1/4 of an inch of rain is going to be common across the region. Higher elevations, where we're seeing those yellows and reds on the map, we're going to see much more in the way of precipitation. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised even if we're talking some of the mountains towards the Mission and Swan Mountains, where we're measuring the snow closer to 1 foot in those highest peaks. So that'll be something to watch out for. But we need all the moisture we can get. We'll take it this way, and unfortunate timing with it being the weekend, but hopefully you got some good plans indoors, especially with those bigger waves Saturday evening through Saturday evening through Sunday morning, and then Sunday evening through Monday morning. As for the temperatures, big swing for those. Tomorrow, we're talking 50s and 60s for most of the region. By the time we get into Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, we're talking high temperatures down into the 30s and 40s for most of the region. We will see those start to moderate, but it does look like we're still going to be in an active period of weather into the middle and latter parts of next week. And right now, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, you see those temperatures climbing up back well above average. We could also be talking about another storm system moving in from the west into the Pacific Northwest, and this one may actually be a warmer system with a bit more rainfall and moisture and that type of situation. So it could be similar to this storm system we are dealing with, but it may be more mild in the temperatures as compared to this one that's going to have us dealing with the snow impacts. So that is unfortunate as we get into Friday next week if we are dealing with rain just in time for Halloween. So hopefully we can break through some of those rain showers so kiddos can go out and trick or treat for a little bit. But that's something we are going to keep a very close eye on as we head throughout the weekend and into next week. We've still got a week to watch that. So for right now, the focus is this current storm system. Main takeaways: gusty winds for southwest Montana tomorrow, 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts I think are going to be common. Gusts closer to 60 can't be ruled out with that high wind watch for Bozeman, Ennis, Dillon, West Yellowstone, Big Sky, as well as towards Cardwell and Whitehall. Also, we're going to see the heavy rainfall, or let me rephrase that. Moderate rainfall in our valleys, and then we get the snow up in our mountains. Snow levels falling from 6,000 to 4,000 feet with that first push of moisture and cold front as we get into Saturday evening and Sunday morning. Then those snow levels fall down to near valley floors, with valleys seeing a rain-snow mix into Monday, where we could be talking about at least that potential for some travel impacts. And then the active weather likely continues, but temperatures falling down into the 40s and 30s for high temperatures in a few locations for the early parts of next week. I did just see a comment pop in from Felix. We get horrible wind bursts in the Helena Valley at around this time of year. Is there any big winds coming this way? Don't know if you'll be able to know that. Actually, I can give you a little sense of that. Yeah, you'll probably be dealing with some pretty gusty winds out there. When you get to the eastern side of the Rocky Mountain front, that's where some of the strongest winds happen. Once you get east of the divide, those really start to pick up. Yeah, almost like hurricane force winds. You can get gusts approaching 75 miles per hour, which 74 miles per hour is hurricane force. So as we get into, let me spin this back around because I can pull this right back up for you. This is looking into Saturday afternoon. I don't have Helena marked here, but it's roughly in this zone. I would say you're probably looking wind gusts 20 to 30 miles per hour, but watch once that cold front moves through Saturday night into Sunday, you see all these purples showing up right on the Rocky Mountain front and then stretching down to near Helena. I know this is a little further north, but I think you're probably going to see winds in that 30 to perhaps as high as 50 mile per hour range into Sunday morning as that cold front moves through, and that likely continues into Sunday night as well. We'll see those pick back up into the afternoon hours with the next wave of moisture moving in. So for areas east of the divide, especially out towards Browning, Cut Bank, Great Falls, Helena, Choteau, we could be talking another round of wind gusts in that 40 to 60 plus mile per hour range, while Sunday is a little bit less over into areas west of the divide, maybe in 10 to 20 miles per hour for Kalispell and Missoula. Still pretty brisk on those winds in southwest Montana at 20 to 30 miles per hour. So hopefully I helped you out with answering that question, but key takeaway, yes, be prepared for some pretty strong winds out there. Maybe not necessarily the strongest winds you've ever seen there in Helena, but they will likely be up there as well. Again, sort of a last call. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask those. I'll try and answer them really quick. Glad to be able to help with all of the questions and all of the information about this storm system as it's rolling in. One little bit of fun news, especially for folks in Butte, if you're heading out to the Montana Tech game, the Hall of Fame game tomorrow against Mayville State. Ooh, let's get that back in focus. There we go. I think we're back in focus there. Temperatures tomorrow, mid-50s are going to be common, It is going to be very windy, though, so we're going to see those wind gusts 20 to 30 miles per hour, if not even a little bit stronger into the early afternoon. It should be generally just a cloudy day with those winds. That does not want to focus, but all right, I think we're in there now. Fortunately, it does look like the rain should hold off until we get to the latter parts of the afternoon and evening. I think as we get closer to, say, 6 to 8 o'clock, we'll have a better chance of moisture. So hopefully that will hold off on getting into getting. There we go. I accidentally hit a wrong button there, and it took me out of that. But in general, it's going to be a breezy day, cloudy skies. The rain should hold off until later. And Felix, I saw, tired of repairing fences. If I had to repair fences all the time because of wind, I would be very tired of that too. I know I had to do a lot of fence repairs back home in Texas when we'd have some big thunderstorms roll through in the spring. We have to replace pickets every once in a while, and by the end of the season, it was just like, there were a couple seasons where me and my family were like, okay, if we didn't have to put the fence back up, we wouldn't worry about it. So hopefully this storm is not another one that forces you to repair some fences there again towards the Helena area, and really that goes across the entirety of the region with those strong winds. Hopefully no fences get blown down, and like I was mentioning earlier, for those winds tomorrow, make sure to secure some of those loose items on your patio or on your porch, just so they hopefully don't go and take a trip and visit your neighbors a little bit further down the street. But in general, we're going to be looking at active weather for the next couple of days. Biggest impacts will be Saturday night through Sunday and into Monday morning with this storm system. Heaviest accumulations up over our mountain passes, especially those northwest, west central Montana, about 2 to 6 inches on average, I think is how things are going to shake out. Valleys, maybe a dusting of snow up to an inch. I think most of our valley areas, especially those below 4,500 feet, 4,000 feet, should stay primarily as rain, though we could see a little bit of snow mix in for Monday morning. Could create a few slick spots on the roads, especially over those bridges and overpasses. But the greatest impacts, just in general from this storm system, will be over our mountain passes where we have those winter weather advisories along and west of the divide. And I think with that, I'm going to pretty much start wrapping this up. Thank you all for spending a little bit of your, what night is it? Friday evening. My days have blended together all this week, so it's been a long week. But thanks for spending a little bit of time with me this Friday evening. Stay safe out there, stay warm, and stay dry. Again, it's not going to be a complete washout this weekend, but when we do see the moisture moving in, it could be pretty widespread at those times, moderate to occasionally heavy. And then tune into our live broadcast tonight at 10 o'clock for the latest news and weather updates. Also, Big Sky Friday nights. It is the final week of the regular season for high school football, so tune into our last show here. And then also, this is a little personal plug, if you enjoy my 3D weather segments that I do, I've been working on a new series of them. This is going to be a 3-part series that I'm working on, but the first one of those aired today during the 6 o'clock show. It's going to be airing again tonight at 10, and it's all about earthquakes that do occur from time to time across western Montana. So I'm going to go through some of the basics of earthquakes, how they're triggered, how they're measured. Not so much how they're measured right now, but that'll be later on, but in a second part, but more about the seismic waves, the triggers of them, fault lines, things like that. So it was really fun to put together, and I hope you all enjoy that. So thanks again for tuning in this evening. Share your photos and videos with us at nbcmontana.com/chime-in, and I will see you all on the next one in the early parts of next week. So have a great and safe weekend. I'll see you all next time. With NBC Montana, I'm meteorologist Mitchell Coombs.